evening and thank you for joining us. The Port of Thunder Bay and local grain elevators will soon be feeling the impact of a strike by workers on the St. Lawrence Seaway.
Uniformed members who operate the locks hit the picket line Saturday night to back their demands for higher wages. Josh Morano spoke with the local port CEO and joins us live in studio. Josh?
Thanks, Mitch. The St. Lawrence Seaway is the main shipping route connecting eastern and western Canada, and around 2/3 of the vessels traveling to and from Thunder Bay depend on the Seaway. Port CEO Chris Hankinen says there are some potential contingency plans in place, but he says the timing of the strike is not ideal.
Well, we're very disappointed that the negotiations have resulted in a strike at this point. It does mean that the ship supply will dry up in the system essentially, and there won't be ships to load and to discharge in the Port of Thunder Bay within the next several days.
There are 8 ships currently in the local port or waiting in the harbor. Port CEO Chris Hankinen says the plan is to load some of them with grain this week, but if the Seaway strike drags on, most of those vessels will have nowhere to go and will have to find somewhere to stop and rest. Ocean shipments will definitely be impacted by the work stoppage along the Seaway, along with any ships needing the Welland Canal to reach Lake Ontario, but a few vessels will still be able to come and go to the other Great Lakes.
You'll see a little bit of continued activity because the Soo locks, which are operated by the American side, those remain open currently. There's also a provision in the Canada Labour Code for the continuing movement of grain through supply chain systems, and I am aware that the Seaway has applied through that process, and we're just waiting to hear how that comes down.
The head of Western Grain tells TBT News that if the Seaway strike drags on, trains loaded with grain may end up bypassing Thunder Bay and could go all the way to ships waiting in Quebec City in order to fulfill grain orders for Europe and Africa. If that were to happen, workers at the local grain elevators could see layoffs, but it's still too soon to know for sure.
Right now, it's a bit of a wait and see. I think it's a little bit early to consider that here in Thunder Bay. There is still a little bit of activity, but certainly as the strike continues day by day, there's more and more risk to employment and to work for the folks here in Thunder Bay.
For now, both sides remain in a standoff, with negotiations apparently very far apart and no end to the strike in sight. Josh Morano, TBT News.
Charges have now been laid in connection with a dramatic crash near Terrace Bay this weekend, which saw a vehicle plunge into the Aguasabon River. OPP area fire crews and paramedics all responded early Saturday afternoon to the single motor vehicle collision, which left a pickup truck on its side in the water. Nobody was injured in the incident, which closed one lane of the Highway 17. OPP announced today that the driver, a 46-year-old man from Terrace Bay, has been charged with careless driving, failure to remain at the scene of a collision, and public mischief. He was released from custody and is scheduled for court appearance next month.
Thunder Bay Fire Rescue is welcoming 10 new firefighters to the department.
The latest recruits were officially introduced at a graduation ceremony at the local fire training center following hundreds of hours of training and education. Thunder Bay Fire Rescue provides the city and region with a highly trained emergency service capable of handling a range of emergencies and hazardous situations. And now 10 more firefighters are going to be on the job. The 8 male and 2 female recruits took part in the graduation ceremony at the fire training center. The ceremony was the culmination of over 14 weeks and over 500 hours of training and education. One of the 2023 graduates, Porter Brown, who is also the valedictorian, spoke about his experience becoming a firefighter.
And that included learning theory and practical skills, and even joining several of the crews who were out in the community. And then they would also come here and we'd participate in live fire training as well with them.
Brown says he can't wait to take everything he's learned onto the job to serve the community, and says it was a special moment seeing his family and friends watching on.
Ultimately, it was part of their sacrifice that got me here, and then I know moving forward as well, they have to give a lot in this job as well. So to have them here to support us it means everything.
With firefighters being public servants, Fire Chief Greg Hankio says it's very important to find the best candidates possible, which he believes they did with this new batch of recruits. Hank Yo says he's extremely proud to welcome them to the team, especially after all the hard work they put in.
It's a difficult, challenging process to become a firefighter in the city of Thunder Bay, so they should be congratulated for all of their efforts, and they become part of the Thunder Bay Fire Rescue team, and we're looking forward to having them serve the community.
The new recruits won't have much time to celebrate, however, as they will be clocking in for work this week. Thunder Bay City Council is being asked to approve its provincial housing target at tonight's meeting. The target aims for the city to build 2,200 homes by 2031 and is tied to provincial funding. The province has made $400 million available annually, with close to $600,000 being Thunder Bay's estimated share. The report coming to council recognizes the challenge of meeting the pledge, saying the local market will ultimately have to respond to build housing. Some city tactics for meeting the target will include streamlining building permits and identifying underutilized sites in Thunder Bay for development. It's part of a larger provincial commitment to build 1.5 million homes over the next 8 years.
Thunder Bay residents got the opportunity to share their opinions on backyard homes this afternoon. An open house was held at City Hall as a consultation period for potential bylaw changes regarding secondary units. The proposed bylaw would cut the minimum setback for backyard homes from 1.5 meters to 60 centimeters. City staff have said this will allow for more efficient use of backyard space. Along with the in-person session, the city has also released an online survey looking for resident feedback. Acting Senior Planner Jillian Fazio says she's heard of a range of opinions when it comes to the proposed bylaw changes.
Folks that are in favor are looking to have the setbacks decreased. Main reasons being it can make it easier for existing buildings to be converted. There are also concerns, though, about having the proximity of these buildings, maintaining around them, as they are not accessory buildings. They're going to be homes for people, so maybe the maintenance requirements would be higher, is one of the opinions that have been shared.
The online survey is open until November 3rd. City staff will then use that information to make a recommendation to Council regarding the bylaw before the new year.
The Ontario Legislature has voted to silence a controversial NDP member, Sarah Jama, over her comments on the Israel-Hamas war.
Gemma has also been removed from the NDP caucus amid backlash for a post she made, which criticized the occupation of Palestinians without mentioning Hamas's attack. Mike Walker reports.
Makes face for her, please.
Surrounded by supporters, Hamilton MPP Sarah Jama didn't make any comments as she left Queen's Park.
All those in favor of the motion will please rise.
After the Ford government passed a motion censuring her in the legislature for a pro-Palestinian social media post without mentioning the Hamas attack launched against Israeli citizens. But during a debate before the vote,
the Ford government has done nothing meaningful to say about these atrocities and has now targeted me to distract from its own scandals.
Jama spoke out against the motion and reaffirmed her support for Palestinians in the Israel-Hamas war.
I restate my call for an immediate ceasefire by Israeli forces and for the immediate restoration of food, water, fuel, and electricity in Gaza. Drown my words in the realities of the Israeli apartheid and Israel's ongoing domination and occupation of Palestinian lands.
The NDP voted against the motion, calling it undemocratic.
This really egregious motion.
But just moments before, decided to remove Jama from caucus.
We've really tried to work hard with her because we wanted her voice to be able to be heard, but she continued to undermine and not work in good faith with us. And so this morning I made the difficult decision.
The Liberals abstained from the vote.
It's dividing us in here at a time when we have to bring Ontarians together.
Jama now sits as an independent. Jewish advocacy groups welcome her removal from caucus.
Lots of situations that, quite honestly, the type of rhetoric that's been applied by Sarah Jama certainly in broad terms has thrown fuel on the fire, and hoping that this move will calm some of those tensions.
The censure means Jama will be silenced in the legislature and not recognized by the Speaker unless she retracts her statement and issues another apology.
It's very rare. Typically, legislatures do it and vote in favor of it where they feel that comments are very injurious to the public interest, not the parliamentary interest.
Jama has apologized once for the post and condemned Hamas, but has not retracted the original statement.
And that was Mike Walker reporting. Thunder Bay Superior North MPP Lise Vaugeois says she is saddened by the whole situation with her now former colleague, but understands why Sarah Jama was removed from the NDP caucus.
You know, I respect her strength for standing up for what she believes needed to be said today, but it is not what the caucus felt was the priority for right now.
Bourgeois believes Gemma understood the consequences of speaking outside what was agreed on by the party caucus, saying NDP members need to be able to work together. However, she strongly disagrees with the government censure of Gemma. Bourgeois calls the debate divisive and accuses the Conservative Party of using the issue to distract from the Greenbelt scandal.
Another about-face today from the Ford government.
The province is reversing plans to change the urban boundaries of several municipalities. Sean Leathong has a story.
Reversing course for the second time in a month because the government says the process, their process, did not maintain or reinforce public trust.
Clearly, the process was one that I was just not comfortable with. I think there was just a little bit too much involvement from individuals within the previous minister's office on the official plans in these areas.
First, it was the Greenbelt. Today, the government's reversing course on a plan to expand the urban boundaries of a number of cities and regions. Minister Paul Calandra says the reversal will affect Barrie, Belleville, Guelph, Hamilton, Ottawa, Peterborough, Halton, Niagara, Peel, Waterloo, York, and Wellington County.
This really is a reset for me as a minister to work with my municipal partners so that we can remain focused on working together.
Former Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs Steve Clark resigned in September in the wake of the Greenbelt scandal after a scathing report from both the Auditor General and Integrity Commissioner finding that some developers had been favored in the process. After the government reversed course on the Greenbelt, Grimsby and Pickering both asked that the province repay nearly $400,000 they'd spent on preparing.
The Premier has a propensity to say it's never the wrong time to do the right thing, and reimbursing the taxpayers of the city of Pickering is the right thing to do.
2 weeks ago, it was revealed that the RCMP is investigating the process relating to the Greenbelt. The opposition had called for an Auditor General's investigation into the urban boundary expansion and say today's reversal is an attempt to avoid more scrutiny.
I don't think the government saw the light as much as they felt the heat of an RCMP investigation.
The same corrupt process that led to the Greenbelt scandal was used in these urban boundary expansions.
Hamilton Mayor Andrea Horwath said in a statement, "This is a big victory for our city and for the protection of Hamilton farmland. Hamilton can meet our housing commitments without any changes to our boundaries and without opening up the Greenbelt to development." Minister Calandra says cities and regions have 45 days to reach out and make changes to their official plans.
Students in Bigtagong-Nishnawbeg, formerly known as Pick River First Nation, were hoping to start the school year in a brand new building.
But supply chain and labor issues have delayed the project's completion, with officials now hoping to open the doors next month. Lee Noonan has the details.
Work is coming along on the new Bigtagong Elementary School. The building represents more than brick and mortar to the community. It's a fresh start. The current school was the site of a federal Indian day school that operated from 1927 until 1990.
It's even hard to hold back my tears thinking about it. I've been an educator in the community now for almost 24 years, and I went to school in the school that our kids are in now. So it's going to be a really significant time, not just for the existing students, but for the ones to come, and also from the students for the past.
Ms. Shano Korshane says students and community members had input into the school's new design, which incorporates a lot of natural light and organic colors and materials. The school also has a classroom dedicated to land-based programming, with stainless steel tables and a hanging system for processing moose and other wild foods, an essential part of the school's locally developed curriculum.
It's based around our worldview, our teachings, and there's a huge emphasis and strong connection to land.
The new school is much bigger and will also boast a gymnasium. Right now, students walk to the community center for gym class. Kids we spoke to say their current school is crowded and gets cold in the winter, and they're excited about all the new space.
We have a lot of people, so there's like a bunch of desks everywhere, and we have one wall with our calendar, and our rug takes a lot of our space. And when we do gym, we are like all crowded.
There are roughly 75 students enrolled now. The new school has space for 100 more. Kids and adults alike are eager to see the building complete.
The end is near, and we're very, very excited.
Daniel Machano, Bictigon's capital housing director, says the $25 million project was delayed by a labor shortage, last year's carpenters' strike, and supply chain issues.
Everyone who's associated with the project is very excited to see the finish line. We could see it, and we're just, every day that goes by, we're getting that much closer.
So far, the project is on budget, with close to $1 million staying in the community, going towards local resources and labor. If everything goes to plan, the building is scheduled to open at the end of November. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Well, turning to weather now, Fiona, what a big difference from a beautiful sunny Sunday to this kind of wet, dreary Monday we have today.
It's not the most positive introduction to our weather. Here's something positive. We hit double digits, a high of 10 despite periods of rain, very light winds, and the overnight lows stayed above the freezing mark. So there's some positivity, not into that freezing conditions and not dealing with the snow that they saw in Alberta earlier today. Now, if we take a look at what has been moving through for the last few hours, we've got this system that's just clipping Thunder Bay, and then the second one to the west, and that's bringing a little bit more rain to areas closer to the Manitoba border this afternoon. So no surprise, Fort Frances dealing with some light rain. However, they actually topped out with a high of 15, well above normal for this time of year. They're currently sitting at 14. If we head a little bit further north, it is a little bit cooler in Kenora and Dryden. They're at 10. 7 in Red Lake. In fact, temperatures really didn't move very much today. They had a low of 7 this morning, warmed up to about 9 mid-afternoon. They're back to that 7 Celsius, and they also have had periods of light rain for much of the day. Right now, just a lot of cloud, and that cloud and the temperatures continue to stay pretty consistent through Sioux Lookout, Armstrong, Pickle Lake, even into Greenstone, although they had a lot more rain as you head further eastward. Temperatures fell since yesterday. They are currently at 7, which is their high for the day. They were a little bit closer to the freezing mark this morning. Along the North Shore, they're at 9 in Nipigon and Marathon, Sault Ste. Marie, 8 Celsius. They've been mostly cloudy throughout the day, and it was very cold for folks on the eastern shore of Lake Superior. They did have a low below the freezing mark of -3. Today they warmed up to 11. They're now sitting at 8. Now, here in the city of Thunder Bay tonight, it's going to be a very mild one. As the system moves through with all this rain, that's the good news. As we saw in Fort Frances, the system bringing rain is also bringing milder temperatures. So we're only looking at a low of 8. And that rain is going to continue to move through the Great Lakes, this warm front shifting further to the southeast. So Thunder Bay is once again kind of just on the edge of this system as it moves through, and it is, though, going to keep temperatures on the mild side for at least a couple days, but after that, all bets are off, and I'll have more details later on in the news hour.
Thanks, Fiona. We move to the Hamas-Israel conflict as more hostages have now been released. We'll have more when we return.
Israel increased the number of people it believes is being held by Hamas to 222, with efforts and negotiations happening around the clock to get them home.